All right, now you can tell your funny story.
I am Cornholio.
Josh, Star, and Ben. 3 founders, Three's Company, Cerberus, Blind Mice, Hockey Periods, Triangles, Third Eye Blind, Podium Finishes, Tricycle. FounderQuest, Illuminati.
I loved Beavis and Butthead so much in the 90s.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was prepared not to like it because all I heard was like everybody talking about how stupid it was. And then I watched it and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is just, my brand. I was like the target demographic.
Exactly.
Like I was like, I don't know, 16, 17.
Yep. That was a great show. There was some picture, I don't remember who it was Josh Hawley, and I can't remember who the other person was, but they had them like as Beavis and Butthead. They did a montage, had them the two in a picture together, and it was pretty funny.
I kind of feel like the children and their deep fried memes are like the spiritual successor to the spiritual child of Beavis and Butthead.
Mm-hmm.
Could be, yeah.
No doubt.
Because Beavis and Butthead were pretty deep fried. This podcast is just all about giving. We all live in the Pacific Northwest, and this podcast is going to be all about giving our readers, what does it feel like, a sense of what it feels like to live in the Pacific Northwest, because I've got a guy chainsawing right outside my window. They've got a wood chipper going, and it's an extremely Pacific Northwest thing. I've lived all over the country, and I've never lived in a place where about a third of the time you can hear a wood chipper in the background in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of that is due to the trend here that I haven't seen anywhere else of allowing like 90-foot cedar trees to grow right next to the houses, right? and so at some point, someone's like, you know what, we probably should take that down, and repeat that over and over again in every neighborhood.
Speaking of, I have some chainsaw work to do like right after this podcast, so we do live in like a grove of cedar trees, and one of them fell in my backyard and took out my fence the other week. So
no.
I've been kind of working on that slowly.
Oh, that's good.
You're gonna be all set for firewood this winter then.
Yeah, for sure. I've been set for firewood since we moved in here. Like trees fall like every year, it seems.
One thing I learned when I started permitting process for my backyard office is that Seattle has a concept of, I forget what exactly it's called, but it's like significant trees or like important trees.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's an official designation for if a tree is like worth living or if you can just kill it with impunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Kirkland is pretty uptight about that whole tree thing as well. In fact, apparently Kirkland is like Tree City, USA, but there might be, 5,000 of those in the country. But anyway, for some reason, the people that owned my house before me, or maybe the people that owned the house before them, decided to plant a nice maple right close to the driveway. And that maple, over its lifetime, of course, grew and grew, and its roots grew and grew under the driveway and heading towards the foundation. And I'm like, I've got to take this tree out. The city of Kirkland was not terribly happy with the idea of me taking out this tree that, had that designation. I don't know what they call it, substantial tree or something. But we actually have we have a policy in Kirkland. Like you can only remove 2 trees per year from your property. You have to get special permission if the tree has a particular diameter or trunk, like if it's been around long enough, kind of thing. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's called the absolute unit designation.
So I had to I sent like a Google Earth view of my house, my lot, and I had to circle the tree and get permits to be able to remove it.
So what you're saying?
Sorry, sir, that tree is a chonk. You can't remove that. That big boy's an absolute unit. You can't just cut him down.
So Ben, what's it like living under tyranny?
Well, and then the tree removal service, because I didn't want to do it myself, I'm not that manly. They came out and the contract was like, if you get sued by the city, then it's all you, basically. Like they disclaim any liability of getting in trouble with the law.
Do they have like tree lawyers or like who do you hire?
The tree police. They go out every year and they look for the trees gone missing.
Well, actually, I did when I was permitting my my shed or my office. I call it the shed, but it's actually a pretty nice office at this point. Like I was originally going to have it on the other side of the lot, but that was too close to the roots. this special tree, and which is good. I don't want to like kill the tree, so I'm glad that they told me that. I don't care what side I build it on, but there are actually tree lawyers and tree laws, and like it's a whole big deal with forestry because let me tell you a little bit. This is just going to be the gossip episode where I just tell you all about like all my family's dirty laundry. So my half sister, I've got, several siblings, and my half sister is like 20 years older than me. And she kind of, got a little weird there and got a little hostile towards the rest of the family. And essentially the family owns sort of in common this little plot of land in Mountainburg, Arkansas it's just forest. It's pretty useless, it's not even really flat enough to build on. Like you would really have to go in and, clear it out and bulldozer it to make it a decent place for a house or anything. And so she was not an owner due to like some complications. Like she sold her part or something like that. But anyway, later on, like several years ago, she went and hired a forestry company to cut down all the trees on the land and sell them.
Like log it.
To log it and give her the money, the proceeds. Which is a pretty shitty thing to do.
Industrious.
Right? Yeah.
Initiative.
So of course we had to sue her just because, I don't know, just kind of out of principle. It was such a paltry sum of money, but it was kind of ended up being the principle of the thing. But yes, there's lots of laws about like cutting down other people's trees. Like this is something people have really dealt with in the past.
Well, like if you're going to go into law, like tree law seems like a pretty good way to go.
Like very stable.
Yeah. Seems kind of chillax,
There'll probably be trees in the future. Have you all back to the Pacific Northwest? Have you seen the pictures of the trees like back before the whole like the Pacific Northwest was logged, like back in the day?
Yeah,
like
it's amazing.
You like pictures of like entire logging crews like sitting on the stumps of these trees that are like, like I don't know, like 20 people or something.
Yeah, I was just reading actually the book "The Boys in the Boat." It's the story of the U.S. Olympic rowing team in 1936, and they were from the Seattle area. They were the University of Washington crew. So there's a lot of like Seattle area history mixed in with this book, and it followed the one of the members of the crew. His name was Joe, and it's all basically his life story. And he lived out in Sequim for a while, and he this was during the Depression era, and so he had zero money. And he learned like from a friend, like how to do various things that were handy enough that someone would be able to want to pay for. And one of the things that was interesting is they would go behind the logging crews who were chopping down these huge cedars and taking what to them was useful, like because cedar shingles was a thing. So they would take like the core, the straightest part of the tree, and just leave the rest. Joe and his friend would go behind them and like, get the rest of the tree that was left there on the ground and then, carve it up and sell their own shingles. That's pretty clever.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
It's a great book though. You should check it out. It's so well written that like by the end, when they're talking about the Olympics and, talking about the race, like there's so much drama. Like I was like really engaged, like how's this going to go? Even though, I already knew the end. Right. But still, it was really cool.
Well, get your affiliate link for the show notes.
Oh yeah,
right.
This is how we're monetizing the podcast.
That's going to pay for the second. We're just going to second mortgage, second house. No, second mortgage is not a second house. That's a very different thing.
Well, I have anticipated further problems with my tree situation because my lot has a few more old trees, legacy trees that are going to need to go at some point. And so what I've done to kind of avoid any future problems is I've planted more trees on my lot so that by the time I'm ready to cut down the ones that I need to cut down, I have some replacement trees ready to go.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's just all trees. There's no place to walk. Well, what happened this week? I didn't do anything I did stuff this week, but I look back on it and it's like I didn't get anything done this week. I realized yesterday, Thursday, that I've sort of ended up with a schedule where I've got Zoom meetings every day, and and I realized also, because I've never had a schedule like this, I've never done so many like freaking like calls in my life. I get to choose in the morning. I get to choose what I do. I can be like get on calls social star, or I can be don't talk to me, I'm looking at my computer star. And I can choose one of those per day to be. And so if I take a call, I sort of fall into the social thing, and then it's just really hard for me to do any work. I don't know why. It's just really hard for me to get in the mindset, the frame of mind.
So it sounds like you did a lot of work this week. It was just all talking work.
I did a lot of calls, that's for sure. But yeah, we're getting some PHP authors, so that's exciting.
Awesome.
Cool.
And, Josh, this week, he got us some PHP developers.
Yeah, I've been sending email this week. Not something I normally do. But yeah, we're building out our little contract developer team, and I think we got a few people interested and excited about that.
So Star is making calls. Josh is sending emails. I was doing a lot of backfilling.
Yeah.
I've had backfilling scripts running all week, and we are now ready to cut over for Dynamo. And by Monday, we're ready to cut over for Elasticsearch.
That's amazing.
So I think I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to cut over both at the same time on Monday. I could see both of you cringing as I said that.
Why not? Why not?
It's funny.
Did I tell you, Ben, I'm going to be on vacation Monday?
So we were having dinner last night, and I was, telling my family about the day, and I was mentioning about this cutover thing, and I said, I've got the code ready, and I was ready to cut over Dynamo, but there's a little bit of code that really depends on the new Elasticsearch. And I was like, well, I could take that out and just deploy the Dynamo stuff now. It's like, but I think I'm just going to deploy it all at once and wait. And my son is like, that sounds like a bad idea. And I'm like,
smart kid.
Yeah.
I just had the picture of Ben's like dinner table, by the way, like with a giant whiteboard next to it, so he can get up and like diagram all his stuff out. Like that's a pretty technical dinner talk, Ben.
I'm picturing myself as that conspiracy guy with the strings on the pictures and stuff.
There you go.
Like, Dad's getting the whiteboard again.
You want to know the first thing that went through my mind when you said that? And this requires a little bit of setup, so bear with me. But so last week I was making jokes about buying call options on GameStop. And I didn't do that because I learned that, so a little tip for the readers or the listeners, when they list the price of a option on the internet, that's per share. That's not for the whole contract of 100 shares. So yeah, so I was like, this is going to be 100 times more expensive than I thought it was. So no. Forget that. But I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I'll read a book about options and learn about them. And so the second you said that, I was just like, gotta buy a put option. Gotta buy a put option against this.
It
makes no
everything.
sense. Yeah, it's just gonna be like Wolf of Wall Street in here all day long.
That makes me think we should launch a new product. It should be markets where you can bet on your internal ops team's performance, right? If a big release is coming up.
That would be great for morale. People would love that. Yeah. You can also we could incorporate it into Honey Badger. Like people could bet on who caused an error.
There you go. Hey, I like that.
There you go.
Or you maybe you bet on your competitors.
But backfilling wasn't the only thing I did this week. I also had some bad news. The bad news is that the approach that I took for the Heroku provisioning portion of Hook Relay is not what they would like to see, they being Heroku. So I might have to redo that. So
that's too bad.
Oh, that's a shame.
There was some documentation that I missed, and they came back and they're like, no, we really don't want to improve you because you're not doing this way. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, see this documentation? I was like, oh man, I did not see that documentation.
Oh, and there was documentation?
Well, it's very well hidden, in my defense. Okay. Yeah, it's like a sub paragraph of a subsection, hidden under a filing cabinet with a lion in front of it saying, And then also discovered that I thought we had enough alpha testers test, but in fact, we have not had enough alpha testers test because the requirement is you have to have 10 alpha customers who have provisioned the add-on, and we have not reached 10 yet. I've invited more than 10, but I guess I didn't keep close enough track as who's actually using the thing. And so, yeah, we've got some work to do there. So
I guess Heroku
that's
would
kind of
know
a bummer. Yeah, Heroku would know that. Yeah. But, good on them that I asked them to like double check, because I thought they were saying, well, you only have X number provisioned. And I'm like, well, maybe someone provisioned and then like deprovisioned, right? So I was like, could you check your logs? And they came back and they're like, yeah, we checked the logs. We know what we're talking about. I was like, oh, darn. So yeah, I'm going to have to do some work there, I think. Or maybe hire a contractor to do that work for me.
Yeah.
There you go. This all seems a little bit more rigid than when we started with Heroku. It feels like when we started with Heroku, they're like, sure, just like slap the Heroku
I'm almost
menu bar on top of your app. It's done.
I'm positive like we did not we did not know what we're doing like as much as we know now. So we probably made many more mistakes.
Yes, during this process, I thought, well, I sure hope they don't decide to go look at the Honey Badger add-on, because hopefully we're grandfathered into the old ways of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened? Why is it gotten harder to start a business, start a SaaS?
They have good reasons. They're a bigger company now. I mean, they got bought by Salesforce 10 years ago now, and they have to. They've gone into, and since we've launched Honey Badger, they've gone more into supporting bigger enterprises. And so they have, a better story to tell, like around compliance and private spaces and things like that. So they're pretty touchy when it comes to like security issues and making sure that you're all on the up and up. And, for a new add-on, well, for a company like Honey Badger, like who is used to doing that kind of stuff now that we've gone through the compliance thing, like that's not so surprising. But, if like Hook Relay was the first, our first go round, and like I had built this and I got that kind of feedback, I'd be like, whoa, that's hardcore. Right. So yeah, it's getting harder, but I think that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Like there's so many bad actors out there who are willing to take advantage of you that you got to be defensive.
So you're saying that when we were initially approved, they didn't quite know what they were doing?
I don't.
And since then, they've learned a lot more about what they're doing.
It was just the Wild West back then, and
it was a kinder, gentler internet.
Yeah. Aw. I miss it. I miss the kinder, gentler internet. Before all the terrible. I mean,
before the internet was ruined.
I had to look at all the terribleness. Yeah.
But it was a good week. It's a good week. I'm excited to have that backfilling stuff done and get the cutover done, and
I might still get to some React Native stuff this afternoon.
Hey,
that is like my stretch goal, because
that would be awesome.
That like this stuff just keeps getting pushed back and back by this like, I think sometimes I forget like how much work we actually have just like sitting across all these different repositories and things that I maintain, and like the effect that has on me as like just hanging over my head constantly. And so like this week I've been trying to like go through everything and like find someone to like handle, someone to basically assign to cover all of that stuff. But then in the process, like I'm getting, I'm getting distracted by it again. And then of course we have like issues coming in, like new things popping up constantly. So we had a few of those, and then we've got like, the inevitable support requests that come in, like, we've got some source map issues and debugging, so like little debugging projects popping up here and there. By the end of the week, I realized like I've pretty much just like spent the whole week doing like support, and pretty much like writing and documentation is like what I spend, I think, most of my time doing. But sometimes it just feels like you didn't get anything done, but I know I worked a lot. So hopefully all that documentation pays off.
Laying that foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to, I would really love to, because that was my goal, like for this week, was like on Monday, I was going to start on testing out this React Native integration that we're trying to roll out. It's like Friday and I haven't, haven't even looked at it yet.
Yeah, it's all right. My goal this week was like, I'm just going to I've got about 20 blog posts like I need to write descriptions for. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down and do it this week. And I haven't done a single one because just so much stuff has come up in the meantime.
Yeah. I will say that I think I did really well this week, resisting the urge to actually dive in on work that would like distract me for, if I kept doing it, it would distract me for months probably. So like my goal is to really finally get like serious about delegation. And so instead of actually like when something like when I see an issue that's like nagging at me and I'm like, oh, like I could jump in and fix that. And that's my instinct. Like this week, instead of like actually like just diving in and, kind of seeing if it was a quick fix or something, I'm just like documenting the process of what I would do to like address that issue, and then just putting in an issue for someone else, hopefully soon, to take on. So basically like spending that time just like documenting the problem, which will make it easier to pass off to someone.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time writing a document about sort of how this contracting system will work, like how we're going to manage contractors going forward. And like we had that call on Monday, and that was really interesting. Like I felt like you had you come up with a really solid sort of foundation for building this contracting system on top of.
It's funny. I forgot, like, as I've been like fleshing that out, I forgot like how much, like I'd actually started on this like a couple years ago. And so like half of this was already kind of completed somewhere, or, like in process. So yeah, I think that's kind of helped. Like I had been like building this out and just never like brought it completely into reality. So I'm hoping that this time it'll actually like, we'll be able to make it work. And it seems like, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
You shouldn't have told me that, because I was impressed. I was just.
Well, like, I mean, it's still impressive.
Came up with this whole like document. Like
it's pretty great.
Yeah, it is pretty great. It is pretty great. Time is an illusion, so it doesn't like the past doesn't exist. So you've brought forth this little thing, this document. Well, I'm just gonna start talking in woo-woo like hippie words from now on. It's gonna be my thing.
The document exists now, but honestly, I think that's probably still the easy part. Like the hard part is like creating some sort of cohesive like community around the people that like participate in this ultimately, and keeping people engaged, because like our problem has always been like, we don't always have, like, we have a lot of like ongoing, like long-term work that would like to like engage people with. But for contractors, like it's, you get a big job and you tend to move on, and it's hard to keep people, around long enough to like, a lot of times people like, just kind of get distracted or wander off. And we're trying to like create some sort of like, some sort of like team, I want like a team dynamic that we can kind of like, rally around or something. So like I want an active Slack channel where we can hang out and actually work together. Really cool. So
one thing I'm curious about, like, and I imagine that as you move forward in this, you're going to try lots of different things and we'll see what works. I'm kind of curious about like whether or not it'll be any easier or harder to get people to do jobs that are very sort of finite and well-defined and concrete, right? So like, I'm curious, like, because one model of working with a contractor is to be like, okay, so we're going to pay you however many dollars an hour. Here's a list of things, go to town on them. Another way of doing it is be like, okay, you can do this one thing for us and we'll pay you X dollars or, X hours at your hourly rate. So I'm curious, like if those will get different responses in terms of interest. Yeah. Cause like that's going to be like, if I was working a full-time job, which I'm currently not. I am kind of. But no. If I was looking for extra work on top of my normal job, like I wouldn't want to do like a hourly thing where I'm, supposed to go in and pick up tickets really, but I might be like, okay, I've got like 5 hours. I can do this one project.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It'd just be interesting to see.
Yeah.
How that works
like
out.
The open source metaphor, and it works here, especially because these projects are open source for the most part. But I think like, eventually, like if we have a group of contractors, we're going to be able to like utilize them for the whole across the whole company. Like we could have, we could work on our Rails app and do other things eventually, but treating it kind of like an open source project with like those well-defined, like finite issues and things. Like, I don't know, like it seems like people do, like you said, like people do who are like even employed full-time, like do still sometimes find time to contribute to like an open source project, or like knock out an issue that they ran into, during their day job or something. So it seems like that could translate. And I mean, like you get paid for it with us, which is always a nice plus. So the thing that I worked on this week that I'm I think is important that I had not created before is like coming up with like how we're going to actually like handle the project management side of this whole thing, because like we don't do project management really. And I kind of want to keep it that way. Like I want to create an environment where like everyone is like individually responsible for the work that they sign up for. So like, you know, if you take on a job or take on an issue, for instance, like, you know, if you're submitting a pull request or something to a open source project, like you're going to be in charge of figuring it out and submitting it. And you don't have like a manager who's like trying to keep you on track for that necessarily. I'm trying to figure out how to like have it be up to, you know, everyone like feels responsible for the work they're taking on, while at the same time creating an environment where it's all about like helping each other move forward. So it's not necessarily that like, oh, well, it's all on your shoulders and you just have to deliver, but it's like you're responsible for the ultimate success of this thing happening, which that means that it's like, it's your responsibility to ask for help if you're stuck. And once you ask for help, like you have, you know, more help than you could ever need, basically.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about one aspect of the blog contracting that, I don't know, it might play a role in this whole building of a team and fostering that community. And it's just might be something that needs to be accounted for. But at least for me, like I find that most of the people I talk to about doing blog posts and who are like, yeah, I'll do a blog post, never write a blog post.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming them, right? Like life happens. Maybe they got in touch thinking that we want some little 500 word like BS, like search engine optimization piece. And we're like, no, you need to do like a textbook chapter. And they're just like, okay, forget that. And they just ghost on me. But like one thing I've tried to do is I've tried to foster this sense of, I don't care. Like I personally don't care if you take a month to get back to me or 2 months or whatever, you know, people come, like you can come, you can go. I'm not going to get mad at you if you take 3 months to write an article. And I may have to I may have to do certain things to keep my project going, right? I may have to like flag your article as stale or something and put it in a different category so it's not clogging up the system. But that's not personal, and just come back and you can finish the article if you want. Sure.
Right. Yeah. So I like that a lot.
So it's like, it's less of a dynamic where it's less of like a startup dynamic where it's like, okay, there's 5 of us and we're all just living and breathing this stuff and we're all like up each other's butts all the time.
Yeah.
And it's more of a, like, here's a nice little coffee shop. You can come and hang out for a little while if you want, and then you can leave and we'll see you next month.
And you also get paid to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, we could buy a literal coffee shop for people to work in. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be.
Once we can actually sit in a coffee shop again.
Well, that'll be nice.
I mean, coffee shops are really cheap right now. It's a buyer's market.
I gotta say that, you know, having the opportunity to do a lot of I'll buy you a coffee type meetings via Zoom rather than actually going somewhere to a coffee shop. Love it. And I really appreciate, thank you, COVID, you know, for that particular thing. I do appreciate that.
Removing that constraint.
I mean, coffee shops are cool. I got nothing against them, but you know, just to go and chat with someone for 15 minutes, you got to drive across town and blah, blah, blah. I'm happy doing that via Zoom. So
yeah. One thing that occurred to me is that, like, we've talked about like hiring a salesperson, and, you know, in my mind, like these sort of high-powered enterprise software salespeople are always like on flights going out to people and stuff. And I wonder, since you know, pandemic happened, like I'm sure that'll come back to some degree, but I also have a feeling like people will be much more open to doing things via Zoom. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it may be possible to have somebody who just kind of stays in the office and does those things, and that's going to be much more acceptable.
Yeah, I was actually reading this week a book called Founding Sales, and it's about how to go from being a founder to being the salesperson. And so it's like exactly for people like me who needs to figure out the sales stuff. And I'm early in the book, but so far it's good. But one of the, just kind of a throwaway comment in there was talking about, you know, getting outside of the building, going and visiting your customers. And, you know, you hear about this advice plenty of places, but just something about it kind of struck me as funny. It's like, oh yes, this was written pre-pandemic, because he's talking about, going and visiting someone in their office, and you got to have that FaceTime. I'm like, yeah, those are the days.
That's how to not get sales.
Well,
now.
I've got FaceTime. We can do that.
But I started on that this week. Started reading that book, and I have an idea actually. So I've also been chatting with a couple of mentors and just really smart folk about our current situation and wanting to get into the sales game, and had some really good conversations about like, why do you want to do that? And what are you thinking and stuff. So it's been helpful. And one of the ideas that kind of fell out of those conversations was, and I don't know if this is actually going to work or if I'm actually going to do this, but it's just a thought. What if I went through our existing customers and looked at those customers that are parts of, larger organizations, and I go to them and say, hey, you are using Honey Badger. You love using Honey Badger. You probably have some other teams at your company that aren't using Honey Badger. How about you introduce me to them, or, find some way to get more Honey Badger into your business. So
it's a good idea.
The whole the land and expand thing. This is not like a new strategy, but I'm just thinking maybe for us, that's a good entryway as opposed to like just dialing for dollars, right?
Yeah.
Just going with relationships we already have, people that already like us, and finding ways to get them to help us, expand in their orgs.
That's really cool. Like I had sort of assumed we would contact, some existing customers, but I sort of assumed that would be like a trying to upsell them thing. But like, I forget that, big companies have lots of teams inside of them. So you could sell Honey Badger to like 50 teams inside of a company.
Yeah.
Is that a situation where the other teams would like purchase a new account, or would it be under the same account of the company, but then it would just result in more usage?
I think both of those scenarios could happen easily. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing some queries next week and pulling out some of our good customers. We this pro tip to people who are SaaS operators. What we do in our help desk system is when we have people give us kudos, we flag that particular response with a testimonial tag. And so we can easily go back to people who we know love us and had great experiences with us, because we can just filter on that tag. And so I think I'll be running some queries this week and cross-referencing our testimonial people and finding out some good potentials to talk to, sending out some emails. So one of the early points in this book was this idea that you kind of have to change your mindset, because he's writing to people who are like, engineers or product people, or, maybe marketing people, but generally people who have not done sales before. And so the first part of the book is like changing your mindset. Like one of his points was, you're kind of used to thinking things through, and planning things out and being very deliberate about the stuff. And he's like, really, sales is different. Like sales is like, you just need to be talking to people. You just need to have activity. You just need to be making things happen. Like you don't need
wheeling and dealing.
Well, yes, but also
like you got to be on the phone. You got to be one of those. You got to be snapping your fingers a lot.
Exactly. One of the specific points was like, instead of spending like 10 minutes reviewing the email to make sure that it sounds perfect, like just send it, right, and move on to the next email, right?
Oh, that explains a lot of the sales emails I've received.
Yeah, yes, it does. Yeah, very, very little proofreading going on.
That's probably why, I seriously sometimes I look up and it's like, I've spent an hour editing this like one paragraph email.
Yeah,
it's something I don't really care about. Like, why did I do that? I don't know.
So there's your sales tip for the day. Maybe we'll have to make this a regular feature of the FounderQuest podcast. We'll come up with a sales tip of the week.
A sales tip.
That's cool. I love it when you go off and you talk to people who like know what they're doing, and then you come back and tell us like what they say. I'm pretty bad at that, so
you should do more.
I feel like you enjoy that a lot more than I do. So, but I always really enjoy hearing what comes like out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Well, cool. I'm all up for becoming like a hard-driven like sales or organization, right? Like coffee is for closers. Greed is good.
Just slap the top of that thing. You can fit so many errors in this.
Yeah, you can fit so many errors in there. It's like, do you know how many airs you can fit into the trunk of a Mercedes? I don't know either, but it's a lot more than like a Honda.
Buy now. Supplies are limited. Only have so many bits.
So you've been listening to FounderQuest, and go give us a review at Apple Podcasts or whatever they call it now. And yeah, if you want to write for us, go to our blog, look for the Write For Us page. I'm kind of drowning in new authors right now, so I may not be able to get to you for a while, but contact us. And until next week, we are the FounderQuest people, I guess.
Beavis and Butthead shall return.
Oh no.
He did it.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to founderquestpodcast.com. That's one word, where you can access our huge back catalog of episodes. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.